Greetings, traveler. You're beginning to see that things have changed since your last visit past the thin veil. The skies are darker, the ground harder, the atmosphere more menacing. The beans are still out. The beans are still out. Why are these beans still out? This is ridiculous. The utter lack of consideration.
It's Dead Reckoning, Season 2, Episode 2. Tonight, we're joined by master film director Gene Dolders, who will be talking about his new feature horror, The Blade Cuts Deeper, and the dilapidated ruins we grew up in.
Join us.
So this episode we have a very special guest, horror film director Gene Dolders. You've got a film coming out soon. When is it coming out? The feature?
Well, the movie's not long being completed, and we're hoping to have a premiere of the movie actually at a cinema in February. I'm just waiting to get feedback on the actual date, but it looks like about the third week of February. And it's, I mean, you guys are based in Liverpool. I'm correct with that, aren't I?
Two of us. One's in Australia, so.
Oh, okay. So not so local for you then for this premiere, but no, the premiere is going to be hopefully at the Light Cinema in New Brighton.
Oh, sound! That's cool. That's a great cinema.
So this is, so I had a look online at the website. I've signed up for the notifications so I can see what's going on. The Blade Cuts Deeper is a movie. It's a really cool idea. I've not actually seen that idea before. Is that something that you came up with yourself?
Well, originally it was going to be another short film that I was going to direct, and then Alex, who writes some of my movies with me, and I was writing a short film with him, and then we got to the point where it just started getting longer and longer, and I thought, you know what, fuck it, this time I'm just going to make a feature instead, because short films are good as kind of calling cards, but unless you want your career to progress in some way, you really need to be making features. So we just took a dive in and just thought we'll make a feature. And in regards to the story, it was it's based somewhat around my experiences, obviously not of killing people or of seeing people being killed, but working in this industry, and the way the main character is, without giving too much away, is essentially a real big arsehole, and he's kind of a combination of people that I know and Alex know, and we put them together to make this guy who's just everyone kind of hates. And so we just started from there, and I thought, well, I want to set it in an environment that I know, so that's a production company. And then I thought it'd be cool to have a fake TV show, so we started incorporating that element. So we created a real crime TV show called Lights, Camera, Kill, and with every real crime TV show, you know, there's a reenactment section. For this particular show, they're not very they don't really honor the victims very much when they make their reenactments. They just go all over just because they want the viewership. So they've done a reenactment of a murder, and somebody who's related to the person that died in the reenactment isn't happy about it, and he just starts picking off all the crew members one by one.
So I just went on the bladecutsdeeper.com, which gives you some information about the cast, and there's a behind the scenes video which is really cool as well. It's awesome. You should definitely check that out.
Oh, thank you.
Gene, what did you do? It was Halloween this week that we've been recorded. So what were you up to? Did you have any special plans?
Well, apart from watching obviously a bunch of movies, I watch horror, pretty much just watch horror movies all the time anyway. But I just watch an extra amount, I guess, during Halloween. I've got a 6-year-old son. So took him trick-or-treating on Saturday night. No, not Saturday night. When was Halloween? It was Thursday night, wasn't it?
Thursday, yeah.
Oh, Thursday, sorry, yeah.
It was Thursday, yeah. So I took my son trick-or-treating, but I thought this year we're going to see really how much he can get. So we went around our area, then we went around the area where he goes to school, then we went to my mum and dad's area, then we went to another area where it's kind of a more upper-class area. So we basically came back with 2 buckets full of candy for him to eat, which I'm going to end up eating because he doesn't actually like candy that much. So he'll eat a bit of it. So it'll be me watching movies for the rest of the week now, just eating all his candy while he's sleeping.
That's the dream, isn't it? A kid who doesn't like sweets. You're like, no, I suppose Dad will have to eat them for you. You go on, carry on with your vegetables.
Oh, my kids, we just had a Halloween. They went trick or treating on Thursday when I was down in Adelaide, and they got heaps and heaps of stuff. And then we had a Halloween party today that actually just finished at like 9:30, and they had someone brought this massive big bag, like those big like Christmas shopping bags, full of sweets, sherbets, everything. And him and the rest of the kids, obviously my little girl who's 2, were absolutely smashing him, and he's wide as a sheet going to bed, like can't talk properly. And she threw up like 3 times into my hands while I'm trying to change her for bed. It's just the worst.
You didn't give a 2-year-old sweets though, did you? You're not meant
We
to do
weren't
that.
watching them is the problem.
Why
Because
weren't
there was
you
like
watching the
10
two-
adults here as well, so we're all having the time of our lives, and we're like, oh yeah, we probably should have been watching the kids.
Yeah, that's the start of a lot of horror films, Paul, is that you weren't watching the kids. And they end up in a pond or something like that.
Well,
need
you
to-
just trade vomit for blood in that scenario, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
I used to take my niece, and she's like in a wheelchair, and like people will come to the door and they'd be like, "Oh, there's a kid in a wheelchair. Are you okay?" She's like, "I was hit by a car." And she's like, "Take my money. Just take money. Get the jewels. Just give the kid something."
Give you a watch as well.
I got all the sweets this week. You'll get them every week, darling. Wheelchair guilt. That's all about the Halloween.
She doesn't need the wheelchair though, does she, Jed? You just said she was in a wheelchair. You didn't say she needed it.
It's part time, to be fair, but you gotta break it out on the special occasions just to get the reward.
You do the Simpsons things and you walk around doing trick or treat with a hollowed out wheelchair so you can get more sweets.
Just drop them straight in. Gene, what horror films did you watch this week?
Oh god. Well, my wife is not a massive. I mean, not that she's not a movie fan, but she's not kind of grown up with movies like I have. So I've been playing movies for her that she just hasn't seen. So she hasn't seen movies like The Thing. So we watched that the other night because she'd never seen it before.
Oh, nice.
She won't
Wow.
sit through the. I mean, it's cool being with someone who's watching certain movies for the first time and watching their reactions. Like the Exorcist last year, I put on The Exorcist for her, but about 40 to 50 minutes in, she just said she was going to bed 'cause she was too scared. So that's like, it's nice when you meet, because I've been watching horror movies since I was so young. You know, you do kind of get desensitized to it, or you know, you can build up basically on the scares, and you know when the scares are coming in. But I miss that feeling of being scared. So watching someone else feeling scared is really kind of cool.
It's really rewarding to watch your wife get scared.
Yeah, well,
Especially when driving.
And what was the other thing you watched?
I also watched Dressed to Kill. I don't know if you guys seen that Brian De Palma movie.
I love that film. We've
Yeah,
mentioned that on a previous episode.
Yeah.
And what else? Oh, Last Night, which is one of my favorites, which I don't think people seem to like that much. Obviously, the original is very famous, but I think Halloween 2 is a very underrated film. The second one's really good.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I can relate to my partner doesn't. It's not that he doesn't like horror films. He hates jump scares. So like if there's a film with a jump scare in it, he won't go anywhere near it, or he gets very nervous. So I was like, oh, let's watch. But he was insisted. It's Halloween. You love horror films. Let's watch a horror film. And we watched The Wicker Man, and he'd never seen it. He knew nothing about it. The only Wicker Man that was in his periphery was the Nicolas Cage remake, and he was like, "Isn't there supposed to be bees in this film?" I was like, "No, not this one." And we were watching it, and he was like, he said, "What? So what's it about?" I was like, "You may as well just watch it." First of all, he was like, "You've tricked me into watching a musical. There's so much music in The Wicker Man. You've just tricked me into watching a musical." And he appreciated all the topless women. He appreciated that. But then at the end, and he said, "Oh, I did like it. It was weird, but I did like it." And then he went, "So who was the Wicker Man?" And I was like, "No, the thing they burned him in is called the Wicker Man." And he went, "Oh," and he thought the Wicker Man was like a monster that was going to come. And he, all the way through the film, he's waiting for this monster to show up called the Wicker Man. I was like,
Which version of The Wicker Man did you watch? Because there's like two quite distinct versions of it.
well, yeah, the only one he'd sort of heard of was the Nicolas Cage remake. So he thought.
Oh, I mean of the original, because there's a couple of scenes that were taken out of the original, implying that Edward Woodward is actually a virgin, and that's why he's sent over there.
Yeah, that's so we watched that version, the one that does
Oh,
explain that does explain that. Yeah, so it did explain that, but to be fair to him, it's called The Wicker Man, and they don't say the words The Wicker Man until like the last 5 minutes of the film. So he was waiting the whole way through, going, "Oh, it's just like this is like the Babadook, or it's like the Bye Bye Man. He's going to show up in a minute." So all the while he's waiting for a big wicker man just to come walking down the street like. And instead,
There's
just
another
like-
angle on the movie. Someone should.
Yeah.
Gene.
He's like sat there weaving a basket, sat next to you, and he goes, "Well, I was quite disappointed in that."
Yeah, well, I said, well, to be fair, mate, if it was about a wicker man, he'd be pretty easily defeated, wouldn't he? With just fire, you just, you know what I mean, or you just burn it. And he was like, yeah.
All that proofing lacquer just goes straight up.
So that was good. Watching a film as favorite. Like, well, I was when you said you were watching The Exorcist with your wife, and after 40 minutes she went to bed. That after 40 minutes, Lewis went, "Nothing is happening in this film," and it only struck me at that point. It's like, oh yeah, for like 40 minutes, nothing really does happen at all. You're just watching a woman and her kid knocking about the house. You know what I mean? There's nothing really. They don't sort of. And he was like, it's 40 minutes I've been watching this, and there's no devil, nothing's happened, and I'm like, well, it does get better, but it until I think sometimes I've only ever watched The Exorcist on my own, and it gave me a new, and I love The Exorcist, is probably my favorite horror film, but like again, that perspective of someone who you want to be entertained by it, and they're like, what's she doing? Why is she talking about horses? Where's this woman going? Is this film part of it? And like she's making it like, no, just sit tight, it'll be fine. A devil will come soon. You know, he's expecting everything.
Maybe I misheard her. Maybe she walked off upstairs saying I'm bored. Maybe I when she left the room.
Yeah. This is shit. Good night.
Maybe that's why the remake of The Wicker Man has like such random stuff, like a cage full of like a bee helmet cage, and like a Nicolas Cage like beats up a woman dressed as a bear. We're just like, this is stuff that we need in the remake, like just to pad it out.
Well, you know that was Nicolas Cage that came up with all that stuff. He's probably improvising the whole movie while they were making it.
That's right.
It's like, hey, I've got this bear costume in my trailer. What do you reckon? And he goes, that's a good idea.
Not even in his trailer. I reckon he just showed up to set in it one day. It's like, I'm a bear today. Oh, Nicholas, no, there's no bears in it. What if there was a bear, though? Says the big Hollywood actor. Come on, guys. I'm going to open this.
He's totally a guy who would be like, no, keep rolling. This is good stuff.
And you know what? Sometimes it is good stuff, but it's a proper blind pick and mix, isn't it? Like you don't know
right
what
up
you're
there
going to get
on
out of it.
It's a shame because if Marlon Brando was in it, it probably would have been an even more insane a So they could have just put on a bunch of actors that just come up with random stuff as the film's going on and had this absolutely mad movie of The Wicker Man.
I'd love to make there should be a reality show where they film Nick Cage over like 6 months telling him they're making a film, but they're not. And just looking at all of the weird stuff that he does, just throw in a random this week's guest actor, and they'll just throw someone in who's like in lots of films, and they're like, oh, you got a scene with him, like he's a butcher. You know that his wife's fiddling the books, and he's like, yeah, just watch what he does, just let him go and see what he ends up doing. And in the end, go, there is no film, Nicholas. And I think he'd love that. I think he'd absolutely go, yeah, this is great. It's a great film. Have you got a favourite?
I think if you had a couple of £1 million right now to give to him, he'd be on board with that movie straight away.
I think so. This is probably why I shouldn't like try and win the lottery, because most people would like pay off their mortgage. I'd be like, get Cage on the phone. It's happened. Okay.
Well, you know what? There are worse ways to lose your money after winning the lottery. So at least
But Kirsty, your house is still a shithole. I know, but look at this Cage film. It's
Look at my
amazing.
legacy.
Look at my legacy. Gene, have you got a favourite horror film? Or
Oh, me, yeah. Oh, yeah. My favorite horror film, because since I think I was 12 years old when I saw it, and it made massive impact on me. It was Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's like because I read something a while ago. Someone had read an article about how obviously at a certain age you're very impressionable, and when you see certain things, like that kind of dictates the type of thing that you'll be into for quite a long time. And seeing something like that at such a young age, because it was still banned in the UK when I saw it. It was in '92, and I think it wasn't officially on kind of released until about '98 or '99 when they put it back on the cinema again, and you could buy it on DVD or whatever format it was on. So yeah, I saw that when I was really really young, and that just became. It's always, I don't watch it as much as I used to, but it's still my favorite movie because it's a great film, but it's not exactly one of those movies that you kind of put on to just relax and take it easy with. I've got other horror movies for that, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre is definitely not one of them.
We must be exactly the same age then, because I was 12 in 1992, and I remember it came out when I was at uni, and I'd also done a massive project at uni on banned films on the banned films list, and I was very excited to see it. And then I remember seeing it the first time and thinking, oh, this is great. And then I did watch it again recently, and then I was like, no, I don't want to watch this. It's like I'd kind of, yeah, I was just, it was too much. It was too much for me in terms of like, it was of the relentlessness of it. And I think it's definitely of its time, because I think now people would be like, more story, more stuff, more backstory. Who is this guy? Why are they doing it? And then that film is just kind of like, yeah, they're just fucking lunatics. And they're chopping people up. And you go, okay.
Yeah, well, I think that's the beauty of the 70s in general. Movies, with some point, they would just end with no real conclusion, which is what I like about 70s films.
Yeah, that was another thing about the Wicker Man that I think was a bit sort of, it sets on fire and then that's it. It's like, what else did you expect? That's the end. He's dead. The main guy's dead. That's it. And you sort of, I think if they sort of remade that version again, not the Nicolas Cage version, but there would be some sort of like, you know what I mean? They would have the police sort of showing up again, or
oh yeah, there has to be some kind of conclusion. Yeah, you're right. People can't take that nowadays, or it just, I don't know what it is. People need some kind of conclusion at the end for nowadays, unlike real life where there sometimes isn't, but they just don't seem to be into it anymore.
Yeah, I was watching. So this week I watched on Halloween. I just kind of like put the TV on usually and just see what people are playing. And I just on one of the old movie channels was Carnival of Souls, and I missed it's from 1962, and I missed like the first 10 minutes of it. But with my modern brain, I went, oh, nothing will have happened. Because nothing happens really in the first 10 minutes of any horror film. It's loads and loads of setup. And then I was watching it the whole way through. And at the end, it ends and you sort of sit and you go, oh, I really needed to see that first 10 minutes because it shows you, it explains the whole fucking film. And I missed it. So I'm watching it going, what the hell is going on? Why is she doing this? What's going on? But it was dead good. But I just kind of, I had that modern thought of like, it's not going to kick in for 20 minutes, so it's fine. What I've missed will be fine. It won't be important. But I forgot in the 60s, they were just like, scene one, the entire backstory that you really need to know, like Psycho a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's like, if you turn that on halfway through, it's like, what's she doing there? That's nuts. She shouldn't be there. And I'm like, but now I don't know, I was watching anything else modern, it's a good like 20 minutes before anything remotely important happens. So you can just...
the only movie I have, which is I don't know what to call it, like my horror movie to go to if I just want to have some fun is a movie called Nightmare City. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Some people think it's a zombie movie, some people think it's kind of a movie about a plague or different things, but it's a really great Italian movie, I think from like 1980 or 1981 by Umberto Lenzi.
No, not heard it.
Oh, it's one of the most ridiculous movies you're ever going to see, and the Blu-ray from Arrow is well worth getting. It's ridiculous. I watch it 3 to 4 times a year, and every time I stick it on, my wife just walks out the living room straight away. She hates it so much.
Thanks for the tip.
Well, you guys seem like the type of guys that would appreciate this movie because it's like a fun horror movie, and it's ridiculous and stupid, and you don't just laugh with it, you're laughing at it a lot of the time as well, just the dialogue and the things that are happening. But it's such a fun film to watch that I always thought that if that was the end of the world, at least that would be a ridiculous and fun end of the world to be in. I'm the type of guy that would die quickly anyway because I'm asthmatic, so I'll probably have an asthma attack and get eaten by someone for a few minutes anyway. So I wouldn't survive to see all the fun that's going on.
I left my puffer in the car.
Oh, I just googled that. Yeah, that looks incredible.
Yeah, that might be my
sold.
Next time Lewis is at band practice, or jujitsu that's going on. 'Cause we were, and it's not a horror film, but actually last night, speaking of films that are just, they're kind of awful, but they're quite adorable. We were watching Batman and Robin, and it was just like, I was like, what? Lou's like, I want to watch Batman and Robin. He's never seen it, but he's just heard the legends of how awful it is. So we stuck it on, and I'm like, do you know what? I actually enjoyed that a lot more than turning on a Batman film, and it's like, I'm so upset about everything. My life's terrible. And everything's dark and depressing, and like it ends, and you're like, what? Is the city better off for that film or not? At least when you watch Batman and Robin, it's like, look, the city was frozen by a freeze ray, and now it ain't. So I can see the results of happening there. So I was like, oh, quite like that. So tonight we're gonna watch Batman Forever as well, and Batman Returns. But sometimes it's just, I think it's so much better just to have a silly, fun film to watch rather than something that's like weighs heavy on your mind for weeks.
There's a Batman and Robin drinking game where you take a shot every time that Mr. Freeze makes an ice pun.
Yeah, I counted though. There's like 17.
Let's kick some ice.
I wouldn't survive that.
There's 17 ice puns I counted. So I don't think, although some of them aren't puns, he just goes, you can freeze. Like, right. Akiva Goldsmith, that is very Oscar nominated screenwriter Akiva Goldsmith going, we need more like ice stuff in here. He goes, so you're gonna be cold. That's not a pun. That's not a pun, that's just you saying the word cold.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
Yeah, Lewis went, no it didn't.
It was an asteroid.
I'm pretty sure I saw Batman and Robin in the cinema, and I remember it very clearly because I was going down to Oxford University's open day, and I went to Oxford University's open day, and then I was like, I think I'll watch a film, and I watched the dumbest film ever. But like, I remember in the cinema when that line came out, I was like, guess what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age, and everyone just kind of went, oh no. You saw like Oxford Dons sat next to me, go, no, that's atrocious. That shouldn't be allowed. Projectionist, turn on the lights.
Also, I can't believe that Joel Schumacher made A Time to Kill, like in between Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, and then directly after Batman and Robin, he made 8mm. It's like he totally like has to cleanse his palate of like really hardcore, intense films. Like this is his film. He made Falling Down, The Client, Batman Forever, A Time to Kill, Batman and Robin, and 8mm. It's like just in between like all these really hardcore films, he's just making like two really wacky Batman films.
Well, then that's Joel Schumacher going, I'm gay, let's make a gay film. Yeah, I'm not allowed to be gay in all these other films. I'm not allowed to be camp. I'm not allowed to be silly. 8mm is one of the most depressive films I've ever seen in my life. And it's like, I'm not allowed to have all these fun, silly bits. So I'm going to do it when I get older, Batman. I'm absolutely going to do it. And I applaud him, R.I.P.
Just put rubber nipples on everything.
I think that, you know what? Yeah, except on Batgirl does not have nipples on her costume. Just the men. Only men have nipples in that Batworld. Anyway, we've got a Schumacher.
We're straight quite far.
Gene, when you were making this film, was there anything that like inspired you specific, like help films you've seen before in terms of like the look of it? So I'm guessing it's some of it a bit tongue in cheek, like you were saying. It's a really awful character who's like working in film and.
Oh yeah, no. Well, the two main movies that influenced it aesthetically, because I'm a big fan of Italian films, and this movie itself is a throwback to the old Giallo movies from Italy.
Oh, yeah.
So the two films that I based it on aesthetic, not story wise, but the aesthetically is The Bird with the Crystal Plumage by Dario Argento, and then Sergio Martino's one called Torso, Torso's more of a kind of a slasher film than really a giallo film. But visually, those are the two films that I based it on. And the person, Guy Pearson, who's done some of the visual effects for a movie and then ended up doing the grading, he's such a geek that he found all the color tones for everyone's skin and things like that for Bird with the Crystal Plumage. So we've managed to replicate the kind of look of the film from The Bird with the Crystal Plumage in Blade Cuts Deeper.
Oh wow, I'm excited to see this film now, because I love all those films, and I love, like you say, there's a certain aesthetic to them, isn't there?
Yeah, and you feel free. You can, this movie that I've made, I've shown it to some people, and I've seen them sitting in their seats nervous. and I can tell that they want to laugh. And then at the end of it, I say, I know a lot of film directors might be angry if you're laughing at the movie, because usually you want them to laugh with the movie, but this movie you can laugh at it because it's serious in a way, but at the same time, I've done it very with a lot of the Italian tropes, and but also with the way that a lot of those low budget movies were made, where sometimes the acting was bad, and sometimes things didn't make a whole bunch of sense, and it's okay to just laugh at the movie. That's perfectly fine.
I love that. That's what I was saying about Odyssey. I watched Odyssey the other week, and it's kind of serious, and but there's also a silly element to it that you do get in a lot of Irish horror films as well. That's a bit like winking at the camera. And the very final shot of that film is it. I laughed out loud at it because it was so silly. But I think that's such a great part of horror films. I think they can just be you can be scared 1 minute, and then the next bit it is funny because it's ironic or something, or they're saying something ridiculous. But how did you?
Oh yeah, I mean this doesn't exactly have it's not a horror film with a monster. It's a killer. So obviously there's tension built up in it, but it's more some of the gore. I mean, there's one very specific scene in the movie that's quite gory, and originally we'd had the actor's face cast, and I was going to go with like a whole Lucio Fulci style where it looks quite fake, but then again with the visual effects we did something which you can see when you watch the movie. But I'll just tell you what happens in this particular scene. So one of the first big murders in it, a woman is killed in her kitchen, and I think originally like the death scene lasted about 20 seconds, which doesn't seem that long, but she was continuously getting stabbed in the face for 20 seconds. And then I had to cut it down to about 5 to 10 seconds because although it was gruesome, at a point after about 10 seconds, it just became really funny because it was just stupid that she was getting stabbed in the face so much. So we cut it down to make it the effect a little bit more. But then that's preceded by something stupid happening. So it's like you can laugh, and then maybe it's a bit gory for some people. I mean, when we do the screening in the light cinema, it won't be rated at that point still, but we can still show the movie unrated. But it's most likely simply because of that scene alone, it'll probably get an 18 certificate, I would imagine.
Yeah, and you have to think about things like that, don't you? I suppose, but it's like that's the difference. I think that's maybe one of the things when you're making a horror film. It's like, do you want to give it a 15 so that the audience is wider, or do you want to make it an 18 to attract all the people who will only watch it if it is at 18? Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's it. I mean, I made this movie. I didn't do any kind of market research or anything. Some directors that I know do that. They think about what's popular in the market right now, and then they make it for that, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But making a movie, because it's a lot of effort. It's making the movie itself. Weirdly, was the easiest part. It's the pre-production and the post-production that takes most of the time. It's taken a couple of years to get the movie all done from beginning to end. So I thought, if I'm spending that much time on something, I just want to make a movie that I would like to watch. So I didn't really care if it was too bloody for some people. If it has a limited audience, that's fine. I just wanted to make a movie that I would go and see. And then obviously there's going to be others who will want to see it as well, because there's going to be a lot of people out there with the same taste as you. I mean, it's probably quite a niche movie realistically, but that's fine. I don't mind.
Are you going to enter it into festivals? Is that the plan?
Well, funnily enough, we've entered it into lots of festivals, but none of them are wanting to take it. Which it's either the movie shit, or it's too gory, or I've no idea. But unfortunately, no one gives you any real feedback, apart from actually one person did. So I don't want to say his name but he's a very big film critic in England and runs a very big film festival in London. So you could probably figure out who it is actually. But I sent him the movie to watch. And he said, I'm going to be really honest with you about the movie. I was like, yeah, it's fine. It's okay. I'm always open to criticism as long as it's constructive. I don't care if people rip the movie apart. And he did criticize some of the movie, but then he said some really nice things about the film. But then he also did say, we're not going to be showing it at the festival either. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So no, I haven't had any luck with festivals. I'm not sure if a Gialli movie now is just maybe too niche even for horror fans, but I wouldn't imagine that it is. But then again, there's a lot of politics going into a film festival with obviously wanting to get numbers to come and get bums on seats and get paid customers and stuff, so they're going for directors that they know already. And the other thing that goes against my movie is that there are no named stars in this. It's all, apart from two actors who are foreign. One of the actresses, Kristen, she's from Norway, and another one, Quentin, he's from Texas, but everyone else is from either Liverpool or Manchester, and they're working actors, but you wouldn't know their names, so they're good at what they do, but that does unfortunately go against the film.
Yeah, in the behind the scenes footage on the website I was watching, I thought it was good. I was thinking, I hope a lot of these are actors, from Liverpool and surrounds. There was a lot of very, very northern accents in there. That was pretty different. I thought that was great. And the there is a small snippet of the sort of
the face
making of and that was it's gory, but it's again in that fun sort of 70s slasher film gory where in some aspects you would think that's a bit over the top, watching a knife go into a face that many times, but at the same time it's like, why not? I mean, it's a horror movie about a vicious killer,
Well, that's it. I mean, I when I was filming that shot, filming that death scene, I was thinking of the eye scene on Cheetahs, where she gets pulled towards the piece of wood sticking out the door and then her eye gets pushed out. That's what I was kind of imagining in my head, but a slightly different variation of it.
It's funny, there was a band, still is a band, quite well known in Liverpool, a mate of mine, a band called APAT, and one of their videos, they have someone, I don't know if they actually ended up releasing it because it was too disgusting, but a lot of the video was just someone stabbing a pig's head that they got from the butchers. Like viciously. That's what they put in their music video. I mean, they're quite like an avant-garde band anyway, so it's it's not mainstream or anything, but
take that, MTV. So what have you heard of Gene, have you heard of Rilla Thriller?
Yeah, so I know the Chad who one of the guys that runs Rilla Thriller. I've been speaking to him, so he's holding a horror convention in North Manchester. I think it's April next year, and he's agreed to show The Blade Cuts Deep at the horror convention. And I might have this wrong, but I'm pretty sure he agreed to show the movie in Rilla Thriller next year as well. So we have got screenings coming up, and I'm in talks with the Plaza Cinema in Crosby to have the movie show in there too, and some other cinemas. But it's just like making the movie, like I said, it was easy. It's the stuff now, doing all in post-production, the marketing, and trying to get people on board with an independent film. It's lots of phone calls and trying to get people interested, which is one of the reasons why I contacted you guys, because I'm trying to just get the word out of the movie out myself as much as I can, because we don't have a distributor on board yet. So I'm doing more of a grassroots self-distribution at the moment and just getting people interested.
Yeah, that's the hard part, isn't it? It's like, especially with getting it into, and there always seems to be loads of like forms and red tape and clearances and licensing and that you've got to agree to, and it's like you've got to sign things to say that everything's cleared in it, that everything's legal within it, and all that kind of thing. Have you come up against that like bureaucracy?
Well, that's it. I mean, I think again, it's there are things going against the movie. Like, it's low, but I mean, obviously you haven't seen the movie yet. I think I sent you the trailer, so you can see the trailer, but that obviously doesn't show you the full movie. But it's an 83-minute movie, which coincidentally is the same length as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I didn't do that on purpose. That just came out that way. It's an independent film. It was shot in 12 days, which was difficult, but we did it, and it was shot for only a budget of £14,000, which I'm really proud of that we managed to do that, because a lot of the crew members and the cast I've known for years, and we've worked on other paid projects together. But when they found out I was doing a feature film, a lot of them just followed. Like my DP, my director of photography, came on the movie for 12 days and wouldn't even take expenses off me. He just wanted to film a horror film. So I had people like that working on it. So what should have cost probably £150,000 to £200,000 came down to only £14,000, because a lot of people work for absolutely nothing or very, very low, or just expenses, and things were kept at a minimum. And we were lucky with one of the locations we had for 6 days. We only got it for £150 a day, which was a really big location. And then the movie where you see behind the scenes where the woman dies in the house, that's actually my house we filmed in. And then so it's just using things that I knew I had already to keep the cost down.
Does your wife know that a woman got stabbed to death in her kitchen?
Well, funnily enough, my wife was working that day when we were filming, and she came back. I think we started filming about 6 p.m. because it was in end of November, and And yeah, at 6 p.m. we finished about 3 o'clock in the morning, and she came home from work about 11 o'clock at night. And then as soon as she came home, because in the movie, because Dario Argento used to do this, and I didn't do this just because of that, but I thought I paid a lot of money for this prosthetic head to be made, and if the actor playing the killer screws it up, I'm going to be angry with him, and I don't want to be angry with him because he's a really nice guy. So I thought, when we do that point of view shot from the killer, I'm going to be the killer. So at least if anyone screws it up, I'll just be angry with myself. So my wife came home to me just straddling a doll, basically, and just stabbing it repeatedly in the face.
I'm going to bed. I'm tired.
It's exactly what it looks like.
Luckily, my son was staying at my parents' house that night, so he didn't get to see any of it.
I was gonna say that is definitely like in like 20 years time. It's like when they're interviewing a serial killer and they're like, what do you think happened to you in childhood? And he's like, well, the reason I stabbed all these people in the face in their kitchen is because that's what I was brought up with.
What's funny is that the prosthetic head is actually in my window ledge right now in the living room. I've had it with specially lit, for Halloween when it's Mangle's face. And my son's 6. My son's friend came over from school a couple of weeks ago, and they were in the living room. And I could hear my son's friend going, my son's name's Raphael. My son's friend's going, Raphael, I'm scared of that head. And my son just turned around to him and said, "Oh, don't be silly. It's just a prop for a movie."
You idiot.
Kids.
Kid.
Well, that's it. I mean, I've got so much stuff around my house from other productions that I've worked on. Like I've got another severed head that I used for a film where some guy got his head chopped off with a machete, and that's just lying around in the house as well.
When you move, you can have a box that just says "Dad's heads" on it.
Heads. Yeah.
I'm slowly acquiring a nice selection of heads. I'm guessing I'm going to have to do that on my next movie as well. Just one day when you come around for Halloween, there'll just be lots of severed heads on poles outside in the garden.
Bit of a spoiler for all your films to have them in the window.
Yeah, well, apparently I've got a thing that I didn't know about bashing people's heads in and stabbing people in the face. So I think I've got something to deal with here.
If you do renovations to your house, you should just put one behind the wall. So if anyone ever moves into your house,
that's great. You know what's funny, right? The house I'm in now, I bought it a few years ago, and when we bought the house, I went up into the loft, and there's a hiking bag up there. When you go backpacking, say across Europe, and it's still up there. I've never opened it. I thought when I get really bored one day, I'm going to go up and see what's in that bag that the last person who lived here left for me. So maybe when I move out, I'll stick one of the heads in that bag so that when the next people come, I'd head inside it. It's a great idea.
I like the idea of us going to see the film in February and said, "Oh, hi, Jean, is your wife here?" He's like, "No, that's over. She's
bored of it already."
You like the idea of that?
No, I don't like the idea of that. But I just think it'd be quite funny.
I couldn't tell you how many times my wife has seen this film because I have an edit bay at home where I edited the movie, and after I finish an edit, I would export it, take it downstairs, and watch it on my big TV to see it on a bigger screen. And she has to watch that every time, so she's probably sick of that movie just as much as she's of Nightmare City now.
What's the ultimate plan for the film? Are you looking at a physical release? I know you said you wanted it on VHS, maybe, or
funny you should say that. So I think the plan right now is we're going to go at beginning self-distribution, which is not as difficult as I thought it was going to be, because I thought you have to make deal with distributors, but there's a whole sequence of events that we can do, steps we can go through before we go to an actual distributor. So the plan is to have some screenings around regional screenings, and then hopefully do some nationwide screenings with the movie. And because I want to be there every time to do a Q&A afterwards if people are interested or not, to hear what I have to say about the film. And then after that, we would do what's called a TVOD release, which is transactional video on demand. So that would be, you go on Amazon Prime and Google and stuff like that. And then it would be AVOD after that, which is advertising video on demand, which is kind of like Tubi, if you've ever heard of it, or Freevee is another channel on Prime where you watch it with adverts. And then after that, we would go with a regular distributor to get it to more territories around the world. But yeah, we are looking at right now doing an old school VHS version of the movie, and not just onto VHS like an old school pan and scan, so it would be like a 4:3, and whenever something in the shot you wouldn't see it, then the kind of the image would just automatically move over so you could see it in the shot. So we are planning to do a limited run on VHS of the film ourselves, and then I'll probably retain the rights to do a special edition Blu-ray or something in the UK, because I've got lots of stuff that I could put on as extras, as well as obviously doing something like a commentary. But there's a couple of scenes that didn't actually make it into the film, like very short ones I could stick on as special features. And then we haven't done it yet, but I think we're planning to get a lot of the actors and crew members back and do a kind of making of after the fact of just interviews with people interspersed with behind the scenes footage that we already have, because we've got loads of BTS from the movie too.
Amazing.
I think that'll end up being another needful thing.
Yeah, that would be. We could bring it on the show, couldn't we? Still got VHS
100%.
players knocking about. Yeah. My dad's got VHS
That's what I'm
players
trying to figure out
knocking
right now, how to do that, how to get onto VHS in kind of a cheap way. My idea is to actually go around all the charity shops locally and buy all the old VHS tapes, because what I want is that when someone watches it, I want the image to be degraded so much that it's like a tape that you would have had from the 80s.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you know what?
Constantly riding that tracking button.
Yeah, exactly.
You would do well to find any VHSs even in charity shops now. Like, because I remember someone.
Don't kill his dream right here on.
No, but I'm just saying it's.
That's it. I'm leaving. I'm going now.
They won't take them. Charity shops won't take them. So you might be better off putting like a shout out for anyone who's got just a videotape knocking about.
Yeah, well, listeners, let us know if you've got VHS tapes.
I've got some. My dad's
Send
got
them
loads.
Yeah, you are right. It's probably the charity shop thing is probably not great now, but I'm sure maybe eBay. I mean, the thing is, so I've got lots of VHS tapes myself, and I could just use those, although I'm very reluctant to do it because a lot of them are what I consider classic movies, although no one else does, like Golden Ninja Warrior and Ninja Terminator, and these are just movies that I love. I went through a massive phase of ninja movies when I was a teenager and just bought them all on VHS.
Oh yeah, don't tape over those. That might be the last remaining copy.
Well, that's the thing, right? Some of them might actually be worth a bit of. I mean, some of the terrible films, but again, I like bad movies. I'm very aware my movies that I like are terrible.
Maybe don't use that as a tagline for the film. It's like, if you like bad movies, you'll love this one. Come and see it.
Well, funnily, I was thinking that as a marketing strategy, I might create a poster. And usually, obviously, you have lines from film critics, but I thought I might just have lines such as, well, I watched it to the end. You know, just things like that. Just some random things people are saying.
Get your wife to supply one. I'm sick of this film.
It surely is one of the films of all time.
I'm scared of that head, Raphael, age 6.
Well, hopefully I can get one person to say it's the best film ever made in Ormskirk that I know of.
Then you're just setting yourself up for some other young filmmakers to be like, right, I've got to make such a good film.
We'll see about
That's
that.
it. I'm going to start a whole industry now in Southport and Ormskirk and Runcorn.
Where did you film in Runcorn? Whereabouts did you film?
Do you know the shopping centre, the city
Yes.
physical shopping city? You know, the big mall
city,
that they have there. It's been there since the 70s. So yeah, they had. I mean, obviously it's not used as much right now. So they had a bunch of empty shops. So we used different shops for different scenes and dressed them up somewhat what we needed. But yeah, they were really kind to us and gave us. We shot there for 6 nights in a row. Did night shoots from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning because that's when they were closed. And I was really surprised. They had one security guard there every night who just sat in his booth watching the monitors, and he just came up to me and every night gave me the keys and said, right, the mall's yours now. And he just gave us the mall like for the whole night to ourselves, which makes me want to, if someone comes to me, like if I'm lucky enough for someone to come, they like, you know, do you want to make a remake of an 80s film? I'd be like, yeah, I want to remake Chopping Mall, but in Runcorn.
Oh, that would be so sweet.
I was going to say the shopping city. If you ever wanted to make like a Dawn of the Dead style movie, it's perfect, and you could even do it during daylight hours. To be honest,
You could, yeah, you're right. You are right about that. Definitely, you could.
So many shopping centres now are built brand new on vacant lots, and that one the whole infrastructure in the shell has been there since the 70s, so it rots from the outside of it. There are bits with like that really look original from the 70s that are just all falling apart. And then even inside, it's got that sickly light. You know what I mean? They've not upgraded the light in there, so it still does seem a bit. I'm very familiar with Shopping City.
It's a fantastic location. I mean, there were parts in there that I wanted to use, but I just couldn't fit them into a film. Because, there's an abandoned cinema in there. There's an old bingo hall. There were just some really cool shops in there that I thought were really good, but they just didn't make any sense whatsoever for the movie. Although there's an area underneath the mall that originally they were planning to put extra shops in, and they started construction work, but then lost the funding. And once I saw it, I thought, you know what I'm going to put in here? A random chase scene, and that's exactly what I did. I just had a random chase scene for this construction site for about 3 minutes.
Yeah, there's the cinema, the abandoned cinema that the fire brigade. The only reason that they kept it like that was because, number one, it was too expensive to clear it all out, and number two, the fire brigade use it for training. So they will.
That's right.
Yeah, they'll train their firefighters if like in a cinema or a building that's going to have like a high number of people in it. But there's also an old club in there. Did you see that bit that used to be Mr. Bumble's? It's an old dusty old.
Oh
club.
no, I didn't see that. No, I didn't see that. I know that a couple of bands have shot music videos in that old cinema, but I didn't see a club.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still accessible as the cinema is, but when you come into one of the entrances, directly on the right, there just used to be a single door with like a really steep staircase down, and it was one exit, one entrance, so you went in within the building, and then they locked that door, and there was a fire, there was like an outside door, but I've never actually been in it, but I believe that it was just locked up and like they boarded over the stairs and like. That it's still under there, so I don't know if that's true or not. But that would be boss because that would just be an old dusty club.
Yeah, I remember
with like
that.
no light.
Yeah.
There's the Cineworld like all boarded up now as well, so there's technically like 2 cinemas like right there.
You could just use just Runcorn in general.
Yeah, they what do you call it? They boarded up the front of the Cineworld now. And I was there the other day, and someone has sprayed on it, now showing gay alien porn.
Right, I'm in.
That's the next film done.
2 tickets.
Dragging my wife to that. She'll divorce me.
Someone outside looking really angry trying to get in.
But it's not just got an abandoned club either. There's an abandoned pub there as well.
Oh, the Straw Hat, yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's on the second level, I think, that abandoned pub, isn't it?
By the Iceland, yeah. They used to like,
yeah.
Everyone's mum would just be like, "I'm going sandpiper, just amuse yourself in the center lobby, just like on like one of them cars that just goes back and forth for £1."
I looked in that abandoned pub and I thought I'd like to use that too, but couldn't fit it in. And then also there was an old bedding shop, which had been shut down. Obviously, in around 2006 or a little bit earlier, because when you went in there were still stubbed out cigarettes in the ashtrays in the bedding shop.
Oh yeah. That was such an odd thing. If you think about a modern shopping centre and you've got an upper level, a mezzanine level that's got a pub next to a bookies, and you're like, that's not good, is it? And then people would just go up and rattle between them all day. And the only time I ever went, because I'm from Runcorn, the only time I ever went in that pub was when I used to work at the Christmas Grotto at Shopping City, and it was like, right, let's go out they were all like, let's go out for a drink after work. None of them were from Runcorn. They were like, let's go to the Straw Hat, and I was like, can we not do that, please? It's absolutely awful. And it was we were all sat in there in these like Christmas jumpers, and all the old men were just staring like, what are you doing in here? It was the most uncomfortable pint I've ever had in my life, and it was just such an odd concoction to have those two.
I'd love to get another film shot in there, because even using the guys that work there, when we'd arrive about an hour before they shut the shopping centre, and there'd be gangs of kids hanging around, and then the head of security would just come up over the tannoy and just be like, will you fucking behave before you leave the shopping centre? Like, this is great.
Please, it's entirely shot in Shopping City. It was so good. You don't even need. Everyone would be like, "Wow, the production values on this are so great. The production design, the way they've made it look so old and shit." And you're like, "Yeah, yeah." Have you got? I know you're only just obviously like working on this. But have you got another project that you've got in mind for the future, or is it like
Yeah, I've got about 3 different ones at various kind of levels of like completion levels. I mean, none of them are completed as scripts, but I'm slowly writing them. But it's taken me away from them now, such doing all this post production work and marketing that I haven't really had time to go back to them. But I've got notes everywhere. So there's another Giallo movie because I'd honestly be quite happy to just make slash and Giallo movies my whole life because I love them so much. But there's another one that I guess is just kind of a straight crime movie that the way I can describe it is, the movie Assault on Precinct 13, like the original one by John Carpenter, and you've got the gang that are obviously all outside the police station. So essentially it would be a movie, but would be about that gang. So, about some other things that they were doing on a different night before the Assault on Precinct 13. It wouldn't be about that gang, but it's kind of the best way I can describe the movie. It's like something they'd done like the night before the whole thing went down on Assault on Precinct 13. And then I've got another movie that I'm talking about with Alex now, who writes with me about I really want to do a zombie movie, but not a zombie movie as in how they're done nowadays. It's more like a kind of a Lucio Fulci kind of late 70s, early 80s zombie style. So it'd be kind of a European gothic horror movie, but with zombies in it.
Yeah.
Sold.
I'm well into this. This might just be the rest of the podcast forever, just getting Gene back on to talk about his films.
Yeah.
Well,
funnily enough, I'm on Liverpool Live Radio every Friday from midday till 1 o'clock, and I talk about movies.
There you go.
That's something I do every Friday now. It started about a few weeks ago. I went on there just as a guest, and then they just invited me back to talk about films. So I was like, okay, sure, do that.
We could have just recorded that off the radio and just put it on here. Just claimed it was ours.
Just clips it all up. It's like Gene laughing, button 1.
Yeah. And then just our responses. Oh, really? How interesting.
I'm pretty sure before long you could just go, well, we haven't got time to record an episode this week. Just put out something like patching bits of dialogue together. Like when an old actor dies and they just like put all of his old dialogue together. One of us will be recreated that way. I absolutely know it. One of these days.
Remain calm. The Falkland Islands have just been invaded. I repeat, the Falklands have just been invaded.
Oh, that's fantastic. Gene, is there anything else you want to, that I've not asked you that you wanted to get out there?
I just a bit of shameless promotion, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
The movie's called The Blade Cuts Deeper, and it's a Giallo film, but I'm trying to get as many people now, excuse me, to go to the film's website, because like as you did, Paul, which thank you very much, I saw you sign up for the newsletter. That's just something, the day you did that was actually the morning we just created that input for people for the newsletter. So we're trying to get people to go and sign up for the newsletter, because starting probably Monday, if not the Monday coming, the Monday after, we'll be sending out a weekly or bi-monthly newsletter just to give everyone updates about the film, like updates, and there'll be extra content. Like there's stuff I'm working on now. We're producing old-style lobby cards for the movie, and there's some trailers that are going to get released, and there's some potentially kind of short, like 30-second character trailers, and there's like BTS stuff still to post and send out to people. So if you signed up for the newsletter, we could send a lot of that stuff out to you early before it goes kind of live on the internet, and some stuff we just send out to the people in the newsletters as well. So I'd really appreciate it if anyone can head over to the website and sign up, and they can get on the mailing list for it, and look out for hopefully what's going to be a screening of the film at the Light Cinema in New Brighton in about the third week of February.
All right. Well, we'll post this on our socials. Obviously, it's already on the episode, and then first thing you hit when you go to the bladecutsdeeper.com is a sign up. And really, it's just I just think it's really sort of interesting and exciting to be a part of something like this, and to see how it goes and to be kept abreast of the situation. There's some other cool stuff on there, like I said, like the behind the scenes footage video is really good as well. Awesome. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, Gene.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it, and I'll speak to you guys at some other point. Have a great day.
So this week I went to York, the spookiest city in the UK.
Is it officially?
They use it in a lot of their marketing, saying they're the spookiest.
They couldn't say it if it wasn't true.
It's like 900 AD. It was founded or something like that, and all the buildings are like from the 12th century. So it's chock full of ghosts. Every single place you go into is haunted. Like if you go around, Like you look at you Google like haunted places in Cheshire, and it's like all these big old stately homes and asylums. If you do that in York, it's like this Subway is haunted by a it's like sandwich shop. This Greggs is haunted by a man called John Anderson who was hung for stealing pigs, and it's like every single place in York is haunted. It's not even a big deal anymore.
York is thoroughly haunted.
It should just say that at the train station when you get off. Welcome to York. We're haunted. Everything's haunted. So we went. I have to go places in half term, so it was very busy. Full. It's always full of tourists anyway, but it was very busy because it was half term, and they were also doing this like. It was such an odd experience when we first got there because Lewis has never been there before. I've been there several times because I've been to the Aesthetica Short Film Festival loads of times with my work. So we got there. We had a little bit of time before we could check into the hotel. We went into this pub. It was completely empty, and it was all like, "We're haunted. This pub is haunted," and it's got all the decorations up. We're sitting there anyway having a and then these like 4 drug addicts came off the street. Started like loudly trying to buy cans of Strongbow at the bar, and then all trooped off to the toilet one by one, 100% taking cocaine. And then the landlady just went, right, no, you've got to leave. But it's like it's an old Victorian pub, so it's like we were sat in the left hand side and they were in the right hand side, so we didn't see them. Like we just sort of heard what was going on. And then when she threw him out, this guy just came out straight over to us and went, "Are you the customers that we're upsetting, and this is why you gotta leave?" And we were like, "No." And he went, "Oh, all right." He just walked up, but he was trying to front us. He was trying to like, "You've complained about us." It's like, "No, we haven't, mate. We didn't even know you were here. We've never met, have we?" And he went, "No." And he just walked out. But it was like, Lewis was like, "I thought this was an old like an oldie worldy, lovely, gentle little York with its fudge shops and its cheese stalls," and it's like, no, straight away, drug addicts in the pub.
Lewis hadn't even finished tying his jiu-jitsu belt on before he walked off. Like, put it back in the bag now.
So it was fun. There was a lot of stuff going on. They have like ghost tours everywhere, so you can't walk anywhere at night without some like drama school rejects like talking in a weird voice going, "She was a witch, they say," and it's all like this every single doorway doing that. And then there's this little shop called the York Ghost Merchants, which I think we've
I
talked
love that
about.
shop.
Yeah, we've talked about. I hate it, fucking hate it with all my being, because it's you can't move past it because there's 17,000 tourists queuing to get in. And then also they did this event where all their ghosts that had gone wrong, and that were seconds that were going to go in the bin, they just hide them around York. Oh, fucking hell. So you've got 1,000 people all with the torches out, wandering around, not looking where they're going because they're looking on the floor for ghosts, and you're trying to navigate this. It was like something out of Silent Hill. And then we were like, we were just wandering, and I'd seen all these people, and Lewis said to this old, like 60-year-old man, he's like, "Excuse me, can I ask what you're all looking for?" And he just went, "Ghosts." And he went, "Oh, okay."
Ghost in bin.
And then he went, "Porcelain ghosts." And we're like, "What?" Lewis is like, "Okay then." And they were all searching for these little fucking ghosts, so they were like scrabbling around the hedgerows and stuff. But it was fun. It is spooky there. It's fun. We went to a great pub called the House of Trembling Madness, which is one of my favourite places because it's like a bottle shop. And the reason it is always full. It's always full, but it's not completely stupidly rammed because A, it's too small, and B, I don't think most people don't realise there's a bar upstairs from this bottle shop, even though it does say it in big letters. But it doesn't look like a bar. It just looks like a shop. So you go upstairs and it's just like all this taxidermy everywhere. Like you walk up to the bar, there's a fucking lion staring at you, and you're like, "Oh gosh." And then there's like a dog as well. I thought because dogs are allowed in this pub, and I thought
How long were you stroking the dog before you realised it was?
Well, I didn't. Well, as I called back to episode 1, I didn't have my glasses on, and I just saw this dog. It's like a little Jack Russell, right? And I thought, no, he's a good dog. He's just sitting there in there's like a little alcove.
You're a cold boy, aren't you?
He's such a good cold boy. Ghost mutt. And it wasn't until I went back up to the bar and sort of looked around. I was like, that fucking dog hasn't moved, and I was like, oh, it's taxidermy, right? It's a dog. But it's a cool place. We had a nice time in York, and we got back. We didn't really manage to avoid anything Halloween related because it was chock full of it in York, and they live for Halloween. It's the best place. It's the best week to go if you don't mind the crazy crowds. And there's like other places that are a bit more like chilled out. And I'm going back next week because I'm taking a trip to the film festival. So I don't know whether it'll be super busy then, but like, yeah, it was really busy. And then on Halloween, so we were back by Halloween, back Thursday, and I just sat and gave out. I had 29 trick or treaters, and then I did the old trick of going like. By then, Lewis was sick of the door being banged on, so I was like, do you know what? It's fine. Just I'll turn all the lights off. I'll take the stuff out the window. I think that's enough. 29 people, and like there was a little girl dressed as Freddie Mercury who was my favourite. And she was like one of the last ones. I opened the door and I was like, "What?" There's a little girl there in a handlebar moustache. I'm like, "Who are you meant to?" I knew who she was meant to be, but I was like, I wanted her to tell me. I was like, "Who are you meant to be?" She said, "I'm Freddie Mercury," and I showed her my Freddie Mercury tattoo, and she was made up. And her mum was like, "She has got the sleeveless, shirt and the thing tied around her arm, but it's a bit nippy, so we put a leather jacket on her." And I was like, "Yeah, it's a bit nippy, isn't it?" Yeah. But she was my favourite. She was really cool. And I've got some.
Can we get her on as a guest?
Yeah, I'll go and try and track her down. Like, hello, little girl. What's your
Don't try and
track
her down.
I wouldn't recognise her again without the moustache. To be fair, like that was good.
No, it wasn't you. This girl had a moustache.
And then I watched, as I've mentioned, Carnival of Souls, which was 1962. Obviously, it's black and white. It's very Hitchcocky, without being a Hitchcock film, and it's like It is creepy, but the creepiest thing about it actually is that there's a male character. So it's all about a woman who gets a job as a church organist, basically, and she goes there. She's on her own. She's like a young woman. She's staying at this boarding house, and the only other guest there is this like single guy who's in construction. And I think if they remade that film today, he'd be played by Paul Rudd, and he'd be like a nice guy. And I think that's what they were trying to get at. But because it's 1962, he's still a fucking creep, and he's horrible, and he's trying to get into her room, and he's like brings her coffee first thing in the morning, and it's like then it's sort of like implied he's like put something in her coffee, and it's like, and I was like, oh my god, is this part of the film? It's like, oh no, like that would not be part of the film now. Like he actually is in the film. He's kind of someone who can rescue her from this situation, and I was like, oh yeah, it's like 1962 version of a nice guy. He's not nice at all. He's really rapey. So yeah, it was and she keeps seeing this like spectre of this guy, and she has these episodes where people can't see or hear her, and she doesn't know what's going on. It's a good film. Like, I would say give it a watch if you're into campy's 1960s like horror films. It's quite effective. Some of the stuff it does.
They do say it's like the base of a lot of other horror movies.
Yeah, you can you can take that template and go, right, like single woman with a bit of a past goes to a new town, to take a job, and she doesn't want to talk to anyone, and she's like a bit aloof, and then there's all this stuff going on, and she sort of loses her mind, and she doesn't know anybody, so there's no one there to sort of help her, and she tries to get away and she can't. And then there's a twist at the end as well. So yeah, I think you could just use that as a template. You could easily remake that, and make it sort of a decent horror film, I think, for 2024. But I just put it on because it was on, and then after that was a couple of episodes of Tales of the Unexpected, which I love. Like, I love it when that comes on, and I always forget to watch it, and it's difficult to find. But Tales of the Unexpected is like a 1960s and 70s. It's Roald Dahl wrote the episodes, and they're all like, it's kind of like Black Mirror if it was made in the 60s, or like it's like an anthology. So it's a different story every week, and there's always some twist, and some of them are crime and some of them are horror related, and like every famous British actor that's ever lived has been in an episode of it. If there's anyone who's like like Michael Hordern and all like the old actors and who've been in like Elaine Stritch and all these people, like they're always in it, and they're sort of like proper theatre actors playing these parts and stuff. And that was good. They're always worth a little watch because they're only half an hour long, and they've got nice little twists at the end. A bit like a chill version of Black Mirror, or Inside Number 9 as well, is like kind of very influenced by Tales of the Unexpected. Pretty much the same thing. but there was like hundreds of episodes of it, so that's what I watched. That's what I watched on Halloween, and then sort of like then we watched The Wicker Man, and introduced Lewis to The Wicker Man, and spoiler alert: The Wicker Man doesn't
Man.
show up. Yeah, so that's my week. That's my week in horror.
Jed, what how did your Halloween go? Your plan was to dress up your dog, if I recall.
Yeah, unfortunately, we the little top hat that we ordered didn't arrive in time, even though it took weeks. So we put some sunglasses on him, and that he didn't really like them. He just shook them off his head. But we had a fun little jumper for him, so that was about it. They both had like little matching jumpers with bats on, so they managed to stay.
The top hat wasn't part of a costume.
It was supposed to be cousin it, so we were gonna like floof all his hair up and put sunglasses on him, a little top hat. But the top hat has still not arrived, despite it saying that it was going to be arriving in the last week, but it's not.
Is it from Temu?
No, it's from Amazon.
Oh, if you get all your stuff off Temu, if it's a day late, they give you £4 credit.
Jesus.
I know, yeah. I was basically it's always late because it's coming from China, so it's always late.
Yeah.
So it's free money. It's like it's amazing.
But you got yourself a holiday buying all them cloaks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what paid for the trip to York.
Just Temu credit. That's what I spent everywhere.
You open your suitcase and you've got 7 cloaks in there for the week.
I have still got a cloak that was left over actually in the plastic. I was like, "What's this?" I was like, "Oh, it's a fucking cloak. They're everywhere. They're fucking everywhere."
But yeah, I was in work most of Halloween until like 8 o'clock at night, so I wasn't really able to do anything. But we had people round on the night before, well, the day before, so like the 30th of October, just to have like a little pre-Halloween celebration. So we had like a little bit of some food out and stuff, and watched some. I think we watched Beetlejuice again. I mean, I'm not too fussed on it, but Laura seems to absolutely love it. But that was we watched that again, and then in the evening we watched The Crow. So it's because obviously that's set on the day before Halloween. Also, it was made in 1994, so it's the day before Halloween, 1994. So that's technically 30 years ago. Like, oh no, the day before Halloween. So we watched that. We watched that one. But overall, I mean, it was just on that actual Halloween night. I was working, so we ended up getting the dogs out in their little Halloweeny jumpers, and then watched the newest episodes of What We Do in the Shadows, which is we're seeing getting over for the final episodes of the series. And the thing is that during the making of this series, like the actress who plays Nadia, the vampire, has had a baby. And she's obviously heavily pregnant when she's filming the series, so they're doing like the old sitcom tropes. So she's like walking behind the counter, suddenly carrying a bag of shopping, like wearing a really big coat.
We're just doing a rewatch of What We Do in the Shadows. We to then watch the new episodes, and we're just up to Jackie Daytona. We just watched that one.
Jackie Daytona is by far one of the best episodes.
I love that episode.
The newer episodes have still got the same old charm. It's obviously winding down though, so it's like where are they going to end up taking it really? But it's still really good. But that's what we did sort of on the Halloween night. As well as that, we watched there's a film that's just come out called Strange Darling, which is sort of like a non-linear sort of thriller movie. It's pretty hard to explain any of it without actually giving anything away, but it's like there's this woman being chased by like a guy with a gun, and they have like a car chase, and he's obviously like hunting her down and that, and it's like split up between like 6 parts, and it like cycles between, like it starts off at part 3 and then it goes back to part 1 where they're like meeting up outside of a motel for like a hookup or whatever, and then it like cycles through the different parts until like when you've finally seen how it all fits together, like which you're seeing it ends up being the twist of the film. But it's one of them films you could probably only really watch once to like get the full impact of it. But kind of like a non-linear thriller, which is really good. Like everyone I've spoken to who's watched it has been really impressed. got like Ed Begley Jr. and Barbara Hershey show up as like two old hippies in the woods, and yeah, I mean that's between sort of dressing the dogs up in little funny jumpers and watching The Crow, but between that, Strange Darling has been probably the biggest part of the my week in horror. Really, definitely an experience, but again, I can't really say anything about it without completely ruining the film, because the way that it's set in like a non-linear thing, just to talk about certain parts of it would completely give the thing away, because it's not like a beginning to end. It sort of runs back and forth. But it's definitely one to check out, and it probably only has the initial experience once, kind of like Memento in that way, where once you've pieced it all together, it's just like you jaws on the floor.
I had I'm going to say 3 separate Halloweens. So the first one, we took the kids to the nearby, well, I call it a zoo. I think it's pretty much a zoo. It's a Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary. So they've only got native animals in there, and they do have a little hospital in there and so on, but it's basically a zoo. Anyway, so they changed it from sanctuary rather cleverly to fangtuary. And, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be, some sort of lame effort at Halloween and whatever. But we went with the kids. It was absolutely amazing from the second we got in. There's a lot of adults in costume as well, which was great. But all the staff were really, really good. Like almost putting on a show, which was really cool. And they had massive decorations. They had a... the little train that usually runs through there, so you can jump on and off the train and go through the zoo and go to different parts of it. They did that as a ghost train, and they had spooky music playing, and the drivers, and they had like decorations on the trains, and the drivers were dressed up, and one of them was dressed as Beetlejuice, which was really cool. Actually looked just like him as well. So that was awesome. You got to ride the ghost train. There was this one guy. He absolutely stole the show. He was like a younger guy, and as you go in, they've got all this tiered seating, but they've put tombstones on every seat, so it looks like a graveyard hill. And he's got this skeleton there, and Finn talks to everybody, and he said, "Oh, what's your name?" Do the skeleton voice, and Finn's like, "Oh, my name's Finn. I'm meeting my friend George here. I'm going to see my friend." Who's excited about seeing his friend George. And he's like, I'm your friend, George. And like made out like it was the bones of his friend. But he was like, the way he did, I'm not going to try and do it, but the way he did it was so funny. It was absolutely hilarious. And then right at the end, he was stood there by the gate handing out free leaves to all the kids. And he was just picking up leaves off the ground and handing them to all the kids. Oh, he was just really cool. What they did as well, which was funny, and I've got heaps of photos to share, but I'll only share a few of them. So all the enclosures where they've got, snakes and spiders and bilbies and this and that, they'd actually put all Halloween decorations inside the cages. So there was like this scary it's called a scarecrow, but like this creepy scarecrow thing where the bilbies are in their enclosure. And then in some of the spider and snake enclosure, it was like that. Kirsch, you remember you shared that thing where someone was selling?
Oh yeah, he makes
vivariums and stuff.
Yeah, he makes spider enclosures. Yeah,
they're basically like that. That's what they did.
Cool.
So it's funny, you get all these it's kind of like Jed dressing up these dogs. You get all these animals who just want to be left alone. They put all these weird shit in their enclosures and glowing ghosts and skeletons and stuff. But it was really cool the way they'd done it all. And then right at the end, there was a guy doing, I don't know the right term for this, but he was juggling fire, basically. So he had sticks and a whip and a samurai sword and all this kind of stuff, who was dressed as the devil, like a really cool looking devil, doing all this this pyro, whatever you call it, this fire sort of stuff. It's absolutely incredible night. And the kids, they get these little punch cards and a bucket, and they take them up to at the end of every section, there's a trick-or-treat station, and they go and get their ticket punched, and they get the sweet to put in their bucket, which was really cool. So that was awesome. That was one of the highlights. As you know, I also, while I was there for work in Adelaide, so I actually got back and I was trying to rush the episode out for Halloween. So I didn't have time to watch a movie or anything really before I had to go out. But I went to Z Ward, which was an old. They used to call it Z Ward Asylum. So basically, there was two across from each other, quite a way across, a fair walk. But one of them, this Z Ward, was where they put the murderers and people were deemed to be, they committed a very, very serious crime, and were deemed to be insane. And it was literally called something like Insane Asylum or Asylum for the Criminally Insane or something like that. Really, really creepy place. They gave us a lot of the sort of spiel before we went in about, the reason there are two people here instead of just one, and if you feel faint, get down to the ground, because they have people who go there and just like, for one reason or another, pass out or faint or whatever and smash their heads and all that sort of stuff. And anyway, they go in, and the first thing that happens as soon as the woman starts talking is there's a ringtail possum in the tree inside the gates that like come over the wall, because he doesn't have trouble getting over the wall. And it just absolutely stole the show. And everyone was just looking at this possum and watching he's going to jump for it. And the woman's like, it's been like 15 minutes and you paid money for this. We're all just like cheering on this possum. And in the end, he ends up like jumping up the tree, jumping over the wall, and everyone cheers for him. The woman said like, so anyway.
Completely ruins the mood, doesn't it?
I know, she's trying to really set the scene and really, yeah.
I love that.
Really dial it in, and then this possum fucking around the tree.
That possum knows what he's doing. He's like, my time to shine.
But this wasn't like, it's not tourists. These are all Australians, most of whom live there. It's like you see a possum every fucking day. Anyway, that was great.
I did have something similar when I did one of my beer tours a few weeks ago. We were walking down to the second venue, and there was a squirrel trying to cross the road. And it was a busy road, and everyone was like, "Oh God!" And I was like, "Please, let's just keep walking." And I was like, "I don't want my fucking beer tour to be ruined after an hour because we've seen a squirrel get killed on a road." But he made it. He made it anyway, and that was the same thing. Like he made it to the right side and went up a tree, and everyone was like,
"Cheers!"
It's like, "Oh God!"
It's a squirrel. When we got in there. So it's not very big. There's something like 46 cells, something like that. And there's a row across the bottom, a row when you go upstairs, there's a row upstairs as well. And there's like a bathroom and some nurse rooms, but the cells are tiny. They're like very, very small. And then there's just one sort of communal room. And it was only, they only stopped using it in the early 70s. It was used right up to the early 70s. Obviously it had a different name by then, and they were cared for much better than they had been in the 30s when they first started using it, when they were just basically in prison and very poorly treated people. But there's this group of guys, like big guys, and they're in there, and this guy must have been about 6'6", absolutely massive guy, and his mate, who wasn't much smaller, and they're walking through, and he says, "Let's hold hands. They can't get us if we're holding hands." And the woman running the thing was like, "Oh, they can.
They can."
I love that. Let's hold hands. They can't get us if we hold hands. Oh, fantastic. So there's a few things that she shared. Basically, she went to various cells and various areas and shared these like scary stories. One of them was about these creepers. They said, "Oh, anyone heard about creepers?" No. And the creepers, apparently, it's this like, some people see it as like a little black mass that moves across the ground. They're always at a very low level. Some people see it as like a black mass, but then like a long reaching hand, like someone. And then someone said it reared up, kind of like they said like a sea lion would, like this on their flippers, and they put their head up. I mean, it's not the ghost of a seal, but like someone crawling along, like in the zombie movies, someone crawling along with no legs, and they're like lifting up. And they've had a few experiences with that. The creepers that just come out. And all the time they're saying, "Look, while I'm talking, don't just focus on me. Have a look right the way down the hall. Look at the corners of doors and things." A lot of people have seen like heads look out and then go back again. And there's this one that goes really quickly from one side to the other, like a bullet. Anyway, there was one ghost in a cell where there was this little girl in there, and she was really scared because she said, "There's someone already in the corner. There's someone stood in the corner." But it was just like a black. It's always just black shapes, like a black silhouette, nothing more. And then this woman who's a skeptic was like, "Oh yeah, whatever." And she went in there and stood in the exact same corner, and apparently heard someone whisper in her ear, "You don't scare me," and immediately ran out and won't go back in there again. Like left the building. That's why there's two of them, because people often want to leave the building.
Those ghosts weren't taking no shit that day.
No. There's also a ghost in the, they call it the mirror room, but it's like an old shower block, which has a cage in the corner where they used to hose down the, more mentally challenged patients. And apparently there's one in there that throws around bathroom tiles. But the problem is, in these groups, there's always at least 50% of the group who are flat out believers to the point that they all have an experience. And to her credit, the woman did say, look, the woman who runs these tours, this is the same company I got my paranormal investigation certificate from. So the woman who runs it all, who actually lives up in Gold Coast where I am, she's like, she does this like 3 or 4 times a week, 3 or 4 nights a week, every week for about 14 years. She's seen 9 ghosts, and that's it. All of these people, they all had an experience. Oh yeah, no, I felt a cold breath on my ear. I felt something touch my leg. I felt this. I felt that. And they're like, no, it wasn't a breeze. No, it was more like. And there's like, there was someone stood right next to me, and I was like, mate, that's a bit close. And then when the lights came on, he was actually, the guy next to him was like 2 arm lengths away. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like they've got to have something. And even the woman running it was like, that's interesting.
That was just Paul. Was that just you like wandering about, breathing on people, and like getting too close to them, then running away?
I think it's an English thing. I don't have boundaries. Oh, sorry. So yeah, that was funny. And
it's like everywhere in the UK is just like 1,000 years old. So just got ghosts everywhere.
Exactly. It's like these American ghost tours and things. It's like, what's this, a 70-year-old house? And it's funny, she did say when questioned, because like 2 of the guys there who were just insufferable, he was like talking about a demonic ghost, a demonic presence. And there are no demons in Australia. Like matter of factly, he was like, what do you mean? And his brother, they were brothers in the end, it turns out. He was wearing a Gohira like hockey shirt, and he had his hair in like a bandana thing and a huge beard. And I was like, right, okay, you're one of the believers.
Australia's so strict on its borders; they won't even let demons in.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a demon border patrol that just exists somewhere in a government office, and it's like they just sit there all day. It's like, there's a demon trying to get in up there. Hal, should we do something about that? You're not coming here, mate.
Yeah, she said, America is where the demons are. Pretty much all of them. They're all in America, nowhere else. One of the funny ones, she said, they were walking along and they looked in one of the cells, and it looked like one of the fly screens was lying on the floor in the corner. It was like a black square. And they walked in, this woman, and she had a look. She couldn't get a phone or anything else. She had her arms full of this expensive equipment they use. And apparently from the floor, this square just rose up until it was a shape of a person stood there. And she just stood there looking at it for ages and ages. And, she couldn't get to any of her gear or anything like that. And this super expensive, they always talk about this super expensive equipment that they use. And God, it's so expensive. When you do the course or when you look at any of these investigators, it's like a few $100s for the most expensive stuff. Like, it's not expensive. It's that, what's your other source of income?
Exactly.
Is it that doing this?
Is it that ghost hunters are poor because they don't have any skills?
That's exactly what I was going to say. She said, look, no, you won't find a paranormal investigator who's rich, and because the equipment is so expensive. I know it's kind of like saying like a musician, like they never make money because you spend more on gear than you get from the gigs. And she's like, "Oh yeah, no, you'll never meet a paranormal investigator who's rich because this equipment just costs a fortune." And I'm like, "You sure that's a reason? You sure that's why?" But yeah, it was really interesting, and it's a heritage listed building, and it's awesome. And I got some really cool photos as well. You're allowed to take photos. Only that group's allowed to take photos in there. That tour. And at the end, one of my favorite bits, which actually turned out to be the worst bit of the whole thing, because it was so boring. They say you can go in with a friend if you want. We ask you not to use your phones just to experience it. And they said, look, if you don't believe in this stuff, just do it from like a historical perspective of this is what it was like for someone who was here to sit in that room. They put people in the cells and they shut you in and they turn all the lights off and you stay in there for 10 minutes. And I was like, I was just sat down in the dark on the floor waiting for them to open. I was actually thinking about the editing I needed to do for the podcast because I didn't have anything else to do.
There's a certain sort of neuroatypical person who, like me, who would just be sat there going, okay, well, you know, I'll tell you what, there's a leak in the kitchen, I think, somewhere. There's a slug getting in somehow. I need to sort that out. need to like get on Amazon, get that slug tape. And it's like, well, did you feel anything? Did you see anything? It's like, sure, yeah, there was a slug in, yeah.
Those lead pipes, they look lead pipe. They can't be lead pipes. Well, they might be lead pipes. I'll ask them. But obviously there were people who were like, oh, I was looking into the corner, it just getting darker and darker and darker. And she went, "Ooh, that's interesting." I'm like, "That's just how your eyes work."
Eyes.
And then there's one of the people who had lots of experiences in there was like, "Oh, there was this like creaking, like someone was stood by my feet." And then it started going like, you know, between her legs as she was lying on the floor, like someone was walking up closer to her. And she was like, "Oh, creaking, that's right." I've known a lot of people who said a tapping noise, but never heard creaking. She went, yeah, it was a tapping. And I'm like, oh, of course. It was. Yeah. And her boyfriend with her, or husband or whomever, was in the same room on the other side. And he said, "Oh, I've got really bad hearing anyway, so I wouldn't have heard it." But yeah. Like it's like enabling her. And there was a bit of that. There was a bit of like one of the couple heard or felt something and the other had an excuse for why they didn't, you know, feel it or see it or whatever. So yeah,
it's trying to get their money's worth. Is it one of these like where you sort of you spend too much money to go somewhere and then you sort of go, I've kind of got to enjoy it. I've got because I've got no choice.
Well, yeah, I better see at least one ghost, or this ticket price is useless.
Yeah.
That's right. They did say because of all our, you know, the tickets that we bought, they were going to make this huge donation to Beyond Blue, which was nice, like a mental health charity. Yeah, it was good. It was a good night. It was really interesting. It was quite fun. It was quite funny as well. So that was good. And then the next night, unfortunately, I was hoping to come home. And when I got to the airport, my boss sent me a text message that said, "Oh, this came through for you. I don't know what it is." And I clicked on it. It's like, your flight's been cancelled. Fucking hell.
That's the true horror.
Herself at home with 2 kids for the week. And it had been tough as well. At one point on the way to a client meeting, I had to explain to Kath over Messenger video while the account manager drove how to steal a fuse from one part of the car to put into another part of the car so the indicators would start working again. So she had a tough week of those. But then I was like, all right. And they put me up in this hotel for the night and I was pretty annoyed and didn't have any clothes left and all that sort of thing. I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch a film I think Kirsty would enjoy very much. Terrifier 3.
Hey, well.
And you've got to watch Terrifier before you watch Terrifier 2. And you've got to watch Terrifier 2 before you watch Terrifier 3. Otherwise, you don't know what's going on.
Conversely, do know what's going on.
You could just watch it because there is zero story involved in it.
Yeah,
you might not know who the people are, but it really doesn't fucking matter, to be honest. It's just gore, senseless gore.
Except this one, he's dressed as Santa.
Yeah, for a lot of it is around Christmas, yeah.
I watched Terrifier, and I don't want to speak about it yet because I want to watch the other 2, and then my week in horror will be a Terrifier week, right? But yeah. I don't think I'm going to be missing out. Going, oh, I've lost so much backstory of
Oh,
why
they're
he's
not.
stabbing people with a screwdriver. Like, I don't. They don't.
It's
You
not
don't.
a great movie. It's not well written. It's just a good, fun. It's like Gene said. It's just a good, fun, gross slasher. He's such a funny character, but also I actually found him quite scary. Like especially in Terrifier, the first one, where she opens the door and he stood there and they're just looking at each other for ages, and then he does that big crazy smile and then chases her.
I don't
But,
find it scary. I didn't find it scary, and I didn't find it interesting, or in any. There was nothing about it. I felt it affected me in like no way whatsoever.
Well, for Terrifier 2, they do introduce a bit of a story. There's a heroine. There's someone sort of almost like with a birthright to go after him. But it is just basically they just crank the gore up and they're just like horrendous murders. And then in the third one, they just go, nah, just turn it all the way up, see what we can do. And it's absolutely, it's gross. And there is actually in that one, it is genuinely scary. They do a really good job between, there's him and his new cohort, which is actually someone from the first movie, but he's now possessed, and there's a demonic element to it. It is actually quite scary. They do it really well. It's a fucking scary monster sort of thing at the end, but they leave it wide open for the next one. Like it is literally just like, this happened, she didn't get him, he's now over here, she's got to also rescue this person, and then it ends. So there's definitely going to be another one. But it's just one of these like guilty pleasures that I like the Terrifier movies. I agree with you, they're not I can't say they're not good movies. They're not great movies. They're just silly slashers. But I personally love them.
Well, I'm going to try and watch them all. I'm going to try and watch the next two before we record next, and then we'll do a Terrifier episode.
And then to cap it all off, so I got back in this morning, and we had put on a big Halloween party. There was I guess a total of 10 adults and about 11 kids all up, and it was fun. There was Halloween music, there's Halloween decorations. We're all having a good time. Some of the kids were dressed up. I wore my Lowe's shirt again, my child 16 shirt, Halloween shirt. Oh, it's so funny. One of the grown-ups turned up with her daughter and she was in full costume, the grown-up. And she was like, oh my God, I've got jeans in the car, I'm going to change. And she wouldn't come in her costume because no one else had one on.
Oh, no.
She actually went back to her car and got changed.
Oh, no.
I felt
That's
so sorry
sad.
for her. I know. I was like, oh, why aren't we dressed up? And I felt, because when we went to the Sanctuary thing, the kids were dressed up, but we weren't. We were just in normal clothes. And everyone made a huge effort. All the grown-ups were dressed up. It was like a real big deal because we didn't think it was going to be much. And we were like, oh, God, I feel like an idiot now. And I was like, actually, no, I am dressed up. I'm a serial killer. They can't argue with that.
Yeah, you're that. Everyone's got one of them at their Halloween party, haven't they? Or somebody just sticks a sticker on saying, my name is God. And it's like, fuck off, mate. Fuck off. I hate you.
The three-hole punch Jim from The Office.
So yeah, that was fun, except the way it ended was it ended a bit late. So I don't think everyone left till about 9:15 maybe. The
That's
kids
late when you have kids. Like I thought you were going to say like 3:15 in the morning. You're like 9:15. There were still people in my house. It's like
And they so one of the parents brought this enormous bag of sweets, and the kids were just, because half of us didn't even know it was there or what it was there for or what was doing. They said, oh, they're going to do a candy hunt, and they were going to hide it around the place, but they didn't. They left it up to the kids to do that themselves. And I swear to God, all of those kids were just smashing it. Finn had like one of his big plastic buckets that he keeps his toys in, this big plastic drawer. He upended that and filled it like halfway up with sweets, which is an ungodly amount. He was white as a sheet and shaking and just not in a good way. And yeah, Melody, she said she fell asleep in my arms, and then she looked up at me, woke up and looked up and said, I want to go to bed. I was like, okay. And took her to bed, started to get her ready for bed. And she went, I feel a bit sick. And she touched her throat, and I was like, "Oh dear, mate. Okay, well." And then she just went, "Blah." And I was like, between the music and the kids and all the stuff going on in the house, I was screaming for Kath at the top of my lungs, and then just for anybody, and no one came. Like I was in like the west wing of a mansion or something. I just had these like cupped hands full of vomit, and I'm like, I can't do anything. Oh, it's funny. She was dressed as she loves Spider-Man, and she's usually Spider-Man Melody. Don't call her fucking Spider Girl or anything. She'll look at you like an idiot. Spider-Man Melody, and then she was Spider-Man Princess Melody because she had a tiara on as well.
Of course, she was.
Oh,
Which is cute.
Oh,
So,
well, her and Lewis are
yeah,
going to
so
have so much to talk about when we go to Bali. He would be the type. This is how he talks to kids like they're just normal adults. So he would be like, "You into Spider-Man at all?" She'd be like, "Yeah." Like, "Oh, we can talk then." So what?
That's how you should speak to kids.
That's exactly how he speaks to kids. He speaks to dogs like babies and cats, but kids
Oh
like
yeah, it's different.
like someone in his office. You know, like, "Do much at the weekend."
All right, mate.
Welcome to Needful Things.
My needful things are alcoholic things this week. So I was in York. York has got one of my favourite. It might be my favourite brewery, maybe now that Chapter Brewing is closed in Runcorn. Sad. It might be my favourite, but it's called Brew York, and we went to their tap room, and they always do a Halloween set of beers every year, and I have to try and remember now what they were called because they were all film related this year. So one of the beers was called It's Showtime from Beetlejuice. One of them was called Only Noodles Michael. Do you know what that's from? Only Noodles Michael?
No.
No, it's from Lost Boys. So you know when they're when they're eating the Chinese food and he's like, and it's because it looks like worms. And
Oh yeah.
and the other one, which was really lovely, was called Here's Johnny. And so, if you want to have these beers, you can get them in cans as well. So they've released them in cans. They've all got really cool labels on, and they're from Brew York, and they're the 2024 Halloween set. So you could either go to York and go to the tap room, or if you follow them on Instagram, it'll show you where they're on draft, and then also you can just from your local bottle shop pick up those cans. They were all really nice. Here's Johnny was superb, pastry sour, really nice.
Jed, do you have anything?
Yeah. So when I was looking into childhood nightmares, I was trying to like think of various like things from media that were from childhood, but this is something that I remembered that I had when I was a kid, and I was like, "Oh, this is more like a needful thing because it's something that I had, but I want again." I don't know if anybody else had this. There's going to be quite a few photos posted in the chat now, so I'm going to butcher the name. So it's Jan Podowski, who does like pop-up books, and this was one that I had as a kid called Haunted House, and the bloody the things that you go through were just like the toilet has this like massive big sort of weird alien crashing through the window. They're like you go into the lounge and there's like a big gorilla firing through the wall, and you have like the hallway, which is like a spooky staircase.
Oh yeah.
I either had this or they had it at school because I remember that lizard.
I think they had it at our school.
Yeah.
They had a lot of horrible books at our school. They had a horror book which I've never been able to find since, but it described like someone using a tablespoon to take someone's eyes out of the sockets, and I was like, this should not be in a school. Primary school this was, by the way. It's a primary school.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like an old kid. That's an old kid's book that I had as a child. Like even like the pictures don't give it justice. Like if you look at the bathroom one, like that, the alligator in the bath actually comes out, and then if you were to open up the toilet lid, there's like I think there's a cat that comes out, and like all the other bits and bobs like pop up, like the doors open and stuff. So. Loads of like weird little creepy weird things in it in different like rooms. This is all I could really find in the there's like screenshots of it, but I 100% had this as a kid. It's just like a really little creepy Creepy Kids book, and apparently the artist did a load of like children's pop-up books. He was very well noted for doing like sort of creepy things. But I always remember being dead scared of the weird alien in the bathroom, because it's like it just doesn't make any sense in the context of the other rooms. They all got like gorillas and like snakes and stuff like that, and in the bathroom it's just like a really horrible weird alien that bursts through. And the other thing that I've had as like a needful thing is I was trying to look for sort of horror themed t-shirts or tops to wear or something, and I wondered about this shop. This is actually a genuine shop, not one of them ones that's like scammed you from Instagram, which is Dark Pick, and they do like loads of like t-shirts and vests for like creepy movies like Evil Dead and Midsummer and Halloween and stuff, but they all do it in a sort of a retro sort of V-top or like cool sort of t-shirt. But yeah, it's definitely one to look at. It's all listed in dollars though, but they go from like small to like 5XL if you're like a giant, absolute, enormous human. If you're wearing something 5XL, I think it's just, you might as well just start wearing a tarp.
Can I just, so Jan Piankowski he did Megan Mogg. That's what he's probably famous for in this country. Megan Mogg, the witch and the cat.
Yeah.
And to always tenuously link back to Power Wash Simulator, in the new Haunted House DLC, the Haunted House, there's a journalist who, you're cleaning a haunted house, and there's a journalist who like knows about the house, and her name is Megan Mogg. And I was like, I might be one of the few people in the world who's gone like, I get it, I get the reference. Because I used to love those books when I was little, Megan Mogg.
That game just seems to be like the shared universe of this podcast.
It was very much Power Wash Simulator and regional zoos always pop up, don't they? You've been to a regional zoo, haven't you, Paul, recently? So.
You've been to a Halloween-themed regional zoo.
That'll be when we're really famous. That'll be our new BBC Two show. It's like Dead Reckonings, regional zoos. This week we're in Cumbria. They'll have forgotten that it's a horror thing at all. We'll just be diluted down to like, listen, we've got money. We like you. Like, what do you want to do? Regional zoos? Yeah, cool. Yeah, regional zoos.
Every zoo is scary if the animals are dead.
Well, I think this is like an obvious plant sort of thing, but I saw it and just thought it was absolutely amazing. It's a sexy Ronald McDonald, just to prepare you for it. It's a doll. I love the placement of the fries. I'll just pop that in there. I sincerely hope you can get this.
I love the placement of the fries.
Why does that exist?
I don't know what it does, and that's the important thing. And then I had something.
It looks more like Dr. Roxo, the rock and roll clown from Metalocalypse. I do cocaine.
So, because the kids like to mess with the phone. This isn't anything to do with. Well, it's kind of horror related because it's a monster in a way. So because the kids like to fuck around with the phone when we're doing the video things, because they don't really give a shit about speaking to me or Kath when we're away on the video call. It's like more our thing. At this point, in the conversation, I'm trying to have a serious conversation with Kath, but we can't figure out how to turn this thing off. So this is how I looked during quite a serious conversation we were having. And there was nothing we could do about it. and it was very hard to be taken seriously.
Your face.
I told you it was serious.
That is such a great way to break bad news.
The worst thing about it is every time I open my mouth, all these bubbles came out. My claws glowed.
Oh my God. That's funny funnier than that Zoom call during COVID where it's like a courtroom, but one of them's a cat, and it's you appear to be a cat, and it's like I'm not a cat. It's like I think it's a filter. Oh my god, that's hilarious. Kath just looks so done in that picture. I hope you've got permission to post this on the socials, because otherwise they're going to hear us laughing at something they can't see.
Oh, I definitely will. She might ask me to blur it or put a more flattering photo in or something. Like that. No, I definitely will. Oh.
I can just imagine you having a serious conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to talk about it when I get home. And she's like stretched so thin because of everything that happened while I was away. And she's having to talk to me like that. And to be honest, even though it wasn't me who did that, it was one of the kids who put it on and we didn't know how to turn it off again. That is the sort of thing that I would do anyway.